Hello, welcome to Parenting with DBT. This is the episode where I talk about the what skill a lot. So I've done videos where I've discussed observe, describe, and participate individually. And there's been a video for each. But almost sneezed there. I held it in. So today I'm going to talk a lot about the what skill, but let's review. We know as parents that we want to be at a place of wise mind very often. It's the best place to be when it comes to making decisions, doing things, being at a place of wise mind. However, we're not always there. As a matter of fact, very often we're not. And the answer to being in wise mind more is just being more mindful. And being more mindful is going to involve a number of practices. But when it comes to what do we do to be more mindful, then there's the what skill. What skill? What do I do to be more mindful? So the answer to this quickly is observe, describe, and participate. Let's talk about observing. Observing is when we are aware of our thoughts and we're aware of what we see and we're aware of what's around us, but we don't necessarily have to act on it. We allow unpleasant feelings to be there, and we don't feel like we have to do something as the result of it. We're able to let that thought be there. This can also be true when we feel very excited and we want to make a decision or we want to do something that might be a little impulsive. We do that. And we're able to let things go. One of the metaphors that I use is if in your mind you're hosting a party or you have a party and you have these open doors to your living room and the guests symbolize thoughts, and some of the guests are going to come in and you absolutely love them and you think they are the bee's knees. You think they're the greatest. Observing means that while they're there, you don't judge them. You allow them to be there. But when the guest tries to leave, you don't force them to stay. You don't try to stand in the way of the door to make them stay. Likewise, when somebody or a thought shows up, when you have a thought in your head that's unpleasant, that's really painful, you don't try to keep it out. You don't try to push it. So when we're observing, we're not trying to keep the positive things in, and we're not trying to keep the problematic things out. We're just allowing them to be, and we're not judging them. Marsha Linehan, in her skills training manual for adults, had a good point. She talked about how there is a difference between listening to music and observing yourself listening to music, that they're two different things. She basically said that every activity that you're watching or that you're a part of, you can listen to things mindlessly, or you can listen to them mindfully. And we know this from school. If an instructor is teaching, sometimes we listen and we're on the edge of our seat and we're really trying to take it all in. That would be mindfully observing, especially if we're not judging the material that's coming out. But when we are just zoning out, thinking about something different, not really a part of it, well, it's just mindless. We're not observing. We're doing the opposite of observing. So that's observe. The next skill is describe. Describing is when we take the things that we observe and we put descriptive labels that are non-judgmental on them, and we're able to communicate it in a way that people understand. The classic example I've used an example in the past of somebody cleaning their room. We can also use, as a parent, we can use example of grades. there's a big difference between saying you have terrible grades and saying that your GPA was 3.3 last term. This term, it's 2.8. Your GPA has fallen 0.5 points. I hope I did the math right there. Yeah, so this is describing. We need to be able to observe and describe so that we can get to participate. And remember, the goal of mindfulness and the what skill and being in wise mind, this big goal of it all is so that we can live a pleasant life with peak experiences, so that we can reduce our level of suffering, and that we can connect with others and be aware of the world and things around us. And observing and describing are kind of the little building blocks that help us to be able to do that. These skills might sound like they're common sense, but actually doing them can be much different. And a lot of people don't know that when you are listening or paying attention and you have a thought that's judgmental, this is a form of kind of non-mindfulness. And this happens all the time when we're raising children. We judge ourselves as parents. We judge our kids. We judge other parents. We judge other people's kids. So when we move on to participate is when we're all in and we are enjoying an activity to its fullest. And we're really making sure not only are we not judgmental while doing it, but we're not self-conscious. We're not self-conscious about ourselves when we're doing that activity. There are people who say, I don't dance, when they actually do. And they actually would probably enjoy dancing, but they don't do it because of what they might report as being not very good at it. And so they label themselves, and so they hold themselves back. This happens with sports. This happens with the arts. This happens with a number of different activities. If we cannot judge ourselves, it frees us to being a part of so many experiences that we would actually grow from if we could be a part of them. And that is the what skill. I want to take a moment to talk about peak experiences too. Several people who are religious or spiritual will describe most of their peak experiences as being a spiritual or a religious experience. When we're talking about peak experiences, very often we're talking about private experiences that people have that are either religious or spiritual. And mindfulness is a practice that can be very complementary to those who are religious or spiritual. It doesn't have to be. You can be agnostic or atheist or undecided, and you can have a very fulfilling experience by having a daily mindfulness practice. I want to take a moment, though, to talk about religion and spirituality. So spirituality tends to be more individualized. This is according to Linehan in the Skills Manual. She writes this. Spirituality tends to be more individualized, and it reflects kind of a person's relationship with the transcendent. And the transcendent is things that we can't detect with our senses. Whereas in religion is a group of people, and they tend to focus on beliefs and rituals and practices. And as a group, that group of people, they try to become closer to the transcendent or to what they perceive as the divine. I bring up religion and spirituality because as a parent, if you can tap into a religious or a spiritual resource during your time as a parent, it is a vast reservoir of psychological assistance. If you are agnostic, or if you are atheist, or if you are undecided, I would encourage you to at least think of something you do believe in. This could be principles, this could be nature, this could be so many different things. Or even just to look at religions of the world and think, what things could you connect with? It's okay to make up a spirituality of your own. As a matter of fact, most people do. And Zen and mindfulness is much more a practice, something we do, than it is a set of beliefs or things that we think. I actually hold that our beliefs, theologically or spiritually, religiously, for many of us, our beliefs are evolving and constantly changing. So some of the common questions that are posed with mindfulness, one is it a religion? And the answer is no. Mindfulness or Zen practice, it's something that we do that's not religious, and it can apply across the board to people of all religions and people with no religion at all. It does have some things in common with spirituality in that by observing, we are silent, we are alone with thought, and being alone with thought and silence tends to give way to maybe more an increase of awareness, tends to give us similar feelings that we might find in a spiritual experience. So that is kind of how they overlap. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about this concept of doing mind and being mind. There's been exhaustive studies on this idea of what we're doing and what we're being. And there is a balance as a parent between what do you do as a parent and what can we be as a parent. Doing mind is when we're in a frame of mind where we are thinking about goals and we're trying to pursue objectives. This can also count for when we're trying to put our kids in extracurricular activities, or when we're thinking about the direction of our family and what we want our family to do. This is doing mind. Planning a vacation would be doing mind. Then there's being mind, and being mind is just existing and like being there and enjoying being there. So being mind is like when I'm sitting in my front lawn, sitting on a couch. Not on a couch. I take that back. There's no couch in my lawn. We got rid of that. Thank you, spouse. I have a chair on my lawn that's woven, and on that chair, I sit there in the front lawn, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy it because I'm just sitting there reading, and I am so happy just being there. This would be an example of being mind. And of course, this overlap we have. How do we balance being with doing? And we balance the two because they're very similar to reason mind and emotion mind. We balance the two through like wise mind, and wise mind practices and being mindful can balance being something while we're doing, or it can balance being aware that we're in doing mind or be aware that we're in being mind. So that is our show for the day. I want to say that I want to summarize the what skill as observing, describing, and participating, and that participating is to have peak experiences. Peak experiences can often be religious and spiritual, but they don't have to be. And if you have a spiritual or a religious component to your life, use it, nurture it, and it can be used as a great reservoir of strength with you and your problems and your issues and your relationships. If you do not, if religious ideas or spiritual practices work against you because you don't like them or you don't believe in them, or it's just not a part of your being, then don't do it. And do something else or nothing else. Doesn't matter. Anyway, this concludes our presentation for today. I wish you all the very best. It was fun talking about the what skill, and Zen is spirituality, or mindfulness is spirituality, and being and doing mind. And I will see you all next week. Thank you.